Hello, hello, beautiful humans. And yes, I was totally doing a dance that nobody could see. They just saw the shoulder motions.
Poppin'.
Welcome to another episode of Teach Jenn Tech. I should at some point really look up what episode numbers there are so that way I can track how many there have been. Today we have Brittney on the show, and Brittney does a ton of stuff, but I'm going to let her introduce that.
That's a great
And
introduction. That's it. I just do too many things.
I never said too many. I said you do a ton. There is a difference. There is a difference. Because when people are like, Jenn, what do you do? And I'm like, I do stuff. I do things and stuff because
I know.
I think I do too many, so I get you there. So thank you, Ben. There is a difference. Yay, Ben. What who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, I do a lot of things, but first and foremost, I guess I'm a developer experience engineer at Netlify. We're still trying to figure out what developer experience, DevRel, like developer avocado, what does that mean? But I basically get to do a lot of content like this. I get to do a lot of podcasts. So I work with codingcat.dev. We do a podcast there. I'm on Spelt Radio. I do remotely interesting with the Netlify folks. What else do I do? I run the Spelt Sirens, or I help run the Spelt Sirens. I'm the co-founder of that. It's a community for women and non-binary people in the Spelt community, which is what we're kind of here to talk about today with What the Spelt, right? I love the title.
I remember when so y'all, I just want to say, I've talked about this in Twitter Spaces. I feel like this is a big thing in the community of you don't DM people just like hey or hello. I awkwardly DM people all the time. It's just not hey or hello. I was looking at Brittney's and this is back in August, and I'm like, I never realized you are you, and I follow you on Twitch, and Ben was on your show yesterday too. That is,
Yeah.
and hi.
I feel like this is Jamstack, and I'm wearing a Jamstack t-shirt today, but this is the Jamstack community where you will run into people in places that you don't think you will, and then you'll know people that you don't recognize right away, but you're like, oh, I saw you in this other place. And I feel like that happens all the time in this community, which is why I love it.
Agreed. And good morning, homie. Yes. And I love one of the first things I saw was I feel like now that Spelt,
What the
Spelt.
spelt?
Because I kept trying to say spite, and I think it's like me getting mixed up with Veet and Vite.
So there's actually an emoji. So I'm also doing VeetComp today. I'm helping moderate the chat, and VeetComp's going all day. And so earlier, since it's VeetComp, we have a Spelt and Veet emoji, and it's called Veet spite. I don't know how you say it either, but it's the two words mashed together, and it could be that confusion there. It's a weird, strange world we're living in. I guess all these French words are confusing us.
Yes. And on the point of being a developer experience and stuff, you were talking about yes. That's going to make it even more confusing. Yes. I started using the term developcado.
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
just smash them together.
Yeah, I just smushed them together. I was like, this is just what I am going to call it, is developcado. Done.
Yeah. It's just done. And what does that mean? What do we do? Nobody knows.
Content.
Yeah,
no
we
techie
create
stuff.
content. I've actually come I really like the way Netlify does it. They integrate us with the engineering and the pillar teams, so we have we're making the experience better for the developers once it's released. So we're actually making sure that the tooling works well for the company you work at, and I really like that format of it more than being developer marketers have a place, but that is not what we do. We're not marketing Netlify. We're using it and making it better for.
Yeah. Okay, so super weird randomness, but Lunch Dev, I can see the comment in Twitch, but I can't see the comment in StreamYard.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Sometimes Twitch does that to us too, because we do this where we push out to YouTube and we push out to Twitch. And if we go live somehow through OBS, Alex does it on his end, and it won't show any of the comments from Twitch. It will just show them from YouTube. and it's really strange. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ben. Coding Cat hat, and I have my Netlify hat over here. I'm starting to swag. Love it.
That is one thing that is too addicting and probably not sustainable at all, is all the swag.
Oh, I know. And then my sticker board is like too full. I'm really cheap with stickers because I know I only get 1 or 2 of them usually. So I put Scotch tape on the back of them and tape them to this board so I can replace them. And so I can take them off and change them out.
I really like the idea of a sticker board, though.
Yeah, instead of like all over my laptop, I just have a board up here. It's just a piece of wood, like a square board that I got from Walmart or something, and throw some stickers on it.
I dig it. I dig it. And Ben, yes, Ben has swag too. So
yes, I have one of his HTML shirts.
I want to get one.
Yeah.
Once I get a job, Ben, I'm ordering one. I'm so excited. All right. So, yes. What the Svelte?
Spelt.
Damn it.
It's okay. We got to get you hired though, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. I have a talk coming up in a couple weeks at Web Unleashed, and it's called Starting with Spelt. And this is really like where I'm trying to get in my head, is that I think web developers who are just beginning their journey and have maybe a basic HTML, CSS understanding, maybe some JavaScript, should actually start building with Spelt because it helps you build projects faster. So if you can build faster, you can get your projects built, you can get your portfolio built, you can get your resume up, and you can get a job, which I think is the goal of most people beginning web development, right?
Yes, yes. I dig it. I dig it. And I told you that we are on the Windows machine, which, hey, y'all, we have improvement. Brittney uses a Windows machine.
I do. I use, for all of my streaming, I use a Windows PC, which is like not becoming the norm anymore. It used to be the norm for streamers, but it's not anymore. So I'm all WSL. I use all the things Windows. It's fine.
Yeah. So we've got some goodness there, and hopefully, I will say, hopefully, I get my Mac back tomorrow. I'm hoping. I hope they say that it's there tonight, so by Thursday I can start streaming on my Mac. And then we also installed Volta, but I don't know. Can I download?
I'm interested to see that too, by the way.
I don't know if I can download the Volta or Svelte. Svelte? Did I actually say it right this time?
You did, yeah.
Yes. If I can download Spelt from it, because it was talking like you could download languages too.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird thing, and I don't know if languages like if it means like JavaScript, Python, like does it mean like those kind of languages, or does it mean like libraries, frameworks? Because there is a Svelte VS Code extension that you can have that will pretty much give you everything that you need. So it's just one extension in Svelte.
And well, so this is Volta. This is what I was installing for all the Node modules that I was having issues with last week. So let's go grab a different tab. And you said that there is one for Svelte plugin on VS Code?
Yes, it's the Svelte VS Code extension, I think is what it's called. I might have to bring my VS Code up. And Homie Codes had a question. Can I give 2 sentences why Svelte allows noobs to build so quickly in general? So I don't know if I can make it in 2 sentences, but I think that it keeps the code as close as possible to being vanilla HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. There's very little Svelte specific syntax in there. So you're writing things that you're already familiar with, and then you're adding those kind of niceties that Svelte gives you on top of it to make it easier and faster to build projects. Hope that was a good sales pitch.
Homie's so good at asking those type of questions.
I love it. Ask the hard questions, or I don't even know. Was it hard?
I say the good questions. I think
good, very good questions. Yeah, Svelte for VS Code. That's it.
There we go. And stop. There we go. Sorry. Installing.
So, what was your experience that you found? A little before we got on, we were kind of talking about your background, and what was your
Yeah.
experience with getting into like these JavaScript frameworks? You said Anthony came on and made you build a React web app, which I was like, why did you do that, Anthony? Where are you at, by the way? I need everybody to go tag Anthony Campolo right now, AJC Web Dev on Twitter, and get him in here so I can fight with him about why he made Jenn build a React web app as her first intro to JavaScript.
So a lot of it has to do with I've worked in the tech industry, and I say like I was adjacent to it in the fact that it was the I was a part of sales, or I was a part of marketing, and but when I was at like Verizon, it was when the iPhone and Android first came out.
Okay.
We go. So it was a lot more technical, and it was where I definitely learned a lot, got to this point. I've done advocacy for other things. I have the podcast, shit you don't want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in January, I was let go from an API design first company. And they taught me all about the APIs, because they wanted me to create a curriculum about it. And yes. And thank you. And so I built this. I was learning how to build the curriculum. Then I'm working on learning all of this. And they let me go in January 2021. And it was like, I'm never doing tech again. I refuse.
Yeah.
Well,
so frustrating.
Once I was healed from surgery I had to have in February, and I healed from, getting let go, I joined the Denver API meetup team, and co-organizer there. And one of the co-organizers, Ori from API Days, was like, this is me paraphrasing horribly because Ori does not talk like this, but was like, yo, like if you could describe like a perfect job, what would it be? And without knowing it, I described DevRel.
Oh, that's
And
amazing.
he was like, dude, you got to do that. And I was like, cool. So Adam Duvander, I met him. He's big in the marketing for design for developers, because developers hate marketing.
Yeah.
And it's so true. And so I knew him from Stoplight, and he posted, this is when I didn't know how to Twitter. I didn't know how to Twitter.
I did not know how to Twitter for a very long time.
Yeah.
So I get you.
Not knowing how to Twitter. So I didn't know how to Twitter. And I replied, he like put a tweet out there of like, all DevRels, please reply if you're open to other people talking, like reaching out to you. I'm literally replying to each person. I'm sending them a tweet, not their DMs, because I don't know how this works.
Yeah.
And almost all of them were like, yo, just DM me. And so the first person I met was Wesley Faulkner, and which was phenomenal to meet him first. He's over at AWS, and he was just like, yeah, you can be dyslexic in code. Why can't you? And I was like, what? This is the entire reason I never went into code. And then the second person I met was Ramon. And Ramon, Ola Soy Milk, for anybody that wants to find him on Twitter. And he was like, yo, like we should do some live learning. You can peer programming. You can come on my show. And I'm like, okay, sure. And Anthony, being the third person I met, he was like, you should start your own show. And no, I am not answering any questions about NFPs and whatever they're called.
Yeah.
And Web3. He's like,
Web3.
no. But yes, you should start your own show. And I was like, okay. And all of them were like, you have no content, you have the personality, and you know how to do everything else except content, technical content. And I was like,
so you were tech adjacent for a long time though. So you
yes.
kind of got familiar with it that way.
Yeah, like I was familiar with it. I hung out with developers almost my entire career, but I was never in the code
That makes a lot of
itself.
sense.
And so that's what I did a lot of, why I had the consulted over at Gravity, because they needed somebody to know more about like the like help with the community side because they do have a community manager, and then more of like getting out there, the brand awareness, the getting feedback from people, the demos, and I loved it. It was just I never knew what language to start with, and Anthony being the
It's overwhelming, isn't it? There's
it
so many
is.
choices.
It is, and I think to answer your question, JavaScript, because I heard that it was, like, the most popular thing, and so I tried taking a course on through LinkedIn about JavaScript, and I'm still to this day really stuck on classes.
Yeah. So
But
when you take a course on JavaScript, it goes so far into like everything about JavaScript. And JavaScript is a massive language. And probably one of the reasons that people told you to learn JavaScript is that you can do everything with it. You can do front end, back end. You can, instead of writing Python, which I know you had some experience with, you could write Node, Arduino now, which is JavaScript. So you can use JavaScript on both sides. But it's a massive language, and it gets, to me, the algorithmic parts of JavaScript never made sense to me, and I hated it.
yeah.
I wanted to build. I was a graphic designer. I did a couple years in college, and then I quit to make money. I needed money, so I was working in restaurants. Worked at a bank, and then I had kids, and I was like stay-at-home mom. And I didn't realize that coding, like front-end web development, was a job I could do. And I found Free Code Camp, and I started teaching myself to code. And I loved bringing my designs to life, but doing JavaScript just where I needed it, like little bits of JavaScript just to interact with the page, not classes and building. Like, I don't want to build a game in JavaScript. That's not me. So I see where that like could have been. Classes are just overwhelming. And that was what React was. I actually did the same thing that you did. I kind of looked around to see what I could get a job in, and everything kept saying React, React, React everywhere. And so I knew a little bit of JavaScript, but I jumped almost straight into React, and it was class-based at the time. So it was all class components. It wasn't these like use state. We didn't have the hooks yet. And it was just at the time when we were switching over to that. But the classes just threw me for a loop. I couldn't tell what was React and what was JavaScript. I was overwhelmed.
Yeah, and that's something that I think is big in, like, Anthony has said this. Ben, I think you had the conversation with Anthony about this, of like, I need to choose, like, become a bit more niche down. And I agree. So first off, I do need to say I totally agree that I need to niche down, yet I don't know what to niche down in yet, because I'm not like, oh, this is so much easier. I love that Laura is coming on to do Python stuff. I'm like, that's convenient because I enjoy learning it. Do I love Python? I don't know yet. I don't know what I love. I've been around APIs a ton. Do I love APIs?
And you're in that discovery phase, like trying to figure out what niche area, like you said, you want to be in. So yeah, I get that.
And what up, Cynthia? Thank you for joining today. And yes, okay, so I did download it.
I see your question too, homie. I don't know if we want to dive into that yet. I will touch on that. Do you want me to go ahead and answer that?
Yeah, go for it.
So first, like, do you know the difference between back end and front end? Like, do you know what we're talking about when we say that?
I mean, good question in the fact that, let's see if I can say it. Front end is where it's more public facing. So
yeah,
like a website, or if you're talking about like a product, it's what the product actually looks like, not what the product does. What the product does is back end. What the product looks like is front end.
Yeah, I mean, that's it to a degree. And I think that like databases, your if you're using GraphQL, your API, that kind of stuff is your backend stuff. So what you're doing in Python is probably backend coding, or you're doing some task like a bot, or you're you're doing something that's processing something. So the front end is what you see on the website. You're absolutely right about that. So in Svelte, we would use Svelte Kit probably at this point, but there's things like Astro. Remix is working on a Svelte router that you can use serverless functions to do those backend pieces. So really, as a front end developer, I feel superpowers kind of to be able to do that front end code, but still touch my backend without actually having to write backend code. And that's what I really like about these newer frameworks, because they use that serverless mindset, I guess.
I dig it. And
There's Anthony. I need to talk to you, Anthony.
and thank you, homie. Homie said that I'm getting better every time I describe it. That's why I'm like, I like when new people come on the show, because they're like, what do you know?
Well, I don't
like,
want to be like rude either. You don't want to be like, oh, you're new to this. No, I'm not trying to be rude. I was just trying to get your understanding of what, because I mean, front end, back end, like Node, Python, modules, like what are all these things?
Yes. And Chan said, if it's helpful, I think front end, back end split like this. Front end is what runs the browser. Back end is what runs on the server.
That is perfect. And yes, like, yes.
Okay, that does clarify.
That's a
even
better definition.
Yeah. Of like, I was just saying like what the product looks like versus what the product does. And I think that's really where server versus, the browser. So I dig that. And Anthony, Brittney has a question for you.
Why did you teach Jenn to build a React app as her first venture into frameworks? Why? Just why? You missed a little bit of the because you wanted her to get a job. So I'm working on this talk called Starting with Svelte, and I think that beginner web developers should use Svelte because I think it allows them to learn the fundamentals along with building projects quickly and getting them out the door so they can get their resume. And then they have the JavaScript experience. And then maybe you touch React if you want a React job. But jumping into React too early, I feel like adds complexity and confusion to new developers.
I would say, though, like something that I think has been really, really helpful.
But how do you prototype quickly with Vanilla.js? How can you build projects?
Yeah, I think something that's become really cool is getting an idea of what all of these frameworks are.
Yeah.
And definitely when I started learning Python compared to React or Next or whatever, I was like, I don't understand. Like, it was very, very altering. Like, this is too much. I don't understand, because I was doing all these things in JavaScript that I didn't know I was doing. Mm-hmm. Now, seeing the different frameworks is very helpful, even within JavaScript, because I'm like starting to see how they may connect a bit differently.
Yeah, like you said earlier, how you can take these things, and even though you may not understand it now, later, like it comes up and you're like, oh, now I get what that means. So I think it makes those connections for you. But I think, because I did it when I was learning to code, I learned React, and I felt like I got held back a little bit because of that confusion. I feel like just if I had learned Svelte first, I feel like I would have gotten farther faster.
And that's a really good way of explaining it. And I'm looking at what the episode was. Deploy a React app with Vite and Vercel. That is technically what he taught me. So I probably said it wrong.
No, I was just wondering. Yeah, I asked if it was create React app. So I was wondering, oh, so it's Vite instead of using, you're not a monster. No Webpack here. Okay, good. I mean, I'm glad it was at least Vite and React, but.
Oh, it still doesn't, like, it makes more sense, but I'm still getting to like understand Vite and Vercel and Netlify and all. I'm just like, I'm not.
All the terms too, like, and then all the acronyms on top of all the terms.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot. So, as a random update for everyone, I am very excited that, yes, yesterday it took a minute, but we downloaded or cloned the project yesterday for Python off of GitHub. But before the stream was over, I did not upload it. And this morning I did, all by myself, which I know sounds very silly, but it's like I kept doing it based on everybody else telling me to do it and like telling me how to do it instead of like figuring out on my own, which has been very, very helpful and annoying, but helpful. I did it. I was very excited. So I wanted to share that. And I will start sharing my screen, but I'm now going to be really annoying and see if I can create a new folder.
So I think you're even farther than I was with like learning web development, because using the command line, you're using VS Code, you're taking yourself kind of out of the browser. Like I learned on Free Code Camp, so everything was in this REPL style thing. Tooling is another complexity, right? Like having to have node modules, having to have like command line experience, knowing how to move around folders. They're all things that you have to learn. And that was difficult for me. And so I also like recommend newer people to just use the browser tools. StackBlitz is amazing. CodePens,
Okay.
Code Sandbox. Like there's so many tools. Gitpod. I'm trying to think of all the ones so I don't leave anybody out. I see Willow in the chat and she's interning at Gitpod now, so I'm making sure that I hit all of my bases here. But
I dig it. I dig it. I would say, thank you for that. And that is a good call out. I used to work at GoDaddy, and which taught me a ton by itself. But then also in their hosting department, I was tech support, and it's crazy how you don't always realize what you learn at the job is actually something that other people don't learn.
yeah.
So I think that is thank you for that call out. I would also say that it's still frustrating because I'm like, I hang out with all the cool kids that know how to do all of this, and I'm not there yet. It's frustrating.
I'm
So,
interested to see what Cynthia says to this, because she said she pushes tools on her students. So I'm wondering, like, if you're
ooh,
a teacher, like, I really want that feedback of like, if you're teaching web development to students, do you make them learn the command line first? Do you make them learn about node modules and like Webpack and Vite are those things that like bundle those node modules together and make it all work? And learning all of that as a new developer was just like, I had no idea. I started up a Create React app and I'm like, what are all these folders? Like, I don't know what any of this is doing. Do you want me to walk you through do you want to stick with vanilla Spelt before we add on the meta framework? So Anthony said you had someone on that had done Next before. So the
yeah.
difference between a framework and a meta framework is when you take something like Spelt, React, or Vue and you add functionality on top of it. So routing, API endpoints, those kind of things get added on top of the framework itself. So Svelte Kit would be the way to kind of create a new Svelte app that would have that back end and front end functionality that we were talking about. But vanilla Svelte would just be using the browser. So it would just be client side rendered.
Um, I'm down for either.
Okay.
At this point, like I've messed with something. How to say this? I'm not gonna know the difference, and I think this is the fun thing and the frustrating thing is like if somebody says like, "Yo, go do this," I'm gonna be like, "Okay,
Okay.
cool," and then it may take me questions later on to go, "Oh, that's the difference of the two." Yeah, like Anthony said, I'm probably fine. It's funny, in case anybody wants to know, when I have somebody that's gonna come on the show, half the time I'm going, "What am I asking? What is this?
Oh, you want to
What?"
use SvelteKit? You think it's probably fine, even with the new crazy routing? So I have some hot takes about the way SvelteKit is going, and not everyone agrees with me, and not everyone agrees with the way it's going either. So SvelteKit has had some major routing changes. They went from a directory file-based routing where you could just create a new file, .svelte file, and that would generate a route. But now you have to do a plus sign prefixed in front of any new route. And then it has to be page.svelte for the front end part, and then plus page.server or plus page.js or TS for the loading that API endpoint, like I was talking about, which is a lot. It's a lot. You need to know what a single component file is first. Then we need to do just Spelt. Yeah. I don't want to create the confusion that Spelt kit will add. Okay, so I'm putting in our private chat the command that you run to just get up and running with a Vite Svelte template project. So Svelte just itself is run with a Vite plugin. It's just a plugin in the Vite ecosystem that runs Vite as the build tooling and allows you to write Svelte. Does that make sense? Am I explaining that well? So Vite is the build tool that builds everything and bundles it together.
Mm-hmm.
And Svelte is the framework library that we're using to write the code. So that's the syntax. And then Vite is the build tool. And that my app part is what you call your app. Oh, you got it. I think I need to make our screen a little bit bigger so I can see your screen.
I guess I could have said no.
Okay, what is happening here? So
Git ignore. I'm creating a repo.
Oh, so that would be Node probably. I think is Node in there?
Maybe. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet.
And again, that was like a huge list. Did you need that huge list? What was that? Even the CLI tool is like a little overwhelming.
Yes.
Build tool is the engine, framework is the car. That's a good way to put it.
Ooh.
At some point, we'll be using emojis to define special routes. That would be amazing.
Yes to all of that. I was very, very like entrenched in actually creating a repo from here. I'm very excited. I'm like, okay, so y'all, I don't know why I just found this.
I
just found
love it.
A couple days ago. Like,
it's
no
amazing.
idea this existed. And I'm like, it has all the commands.
So I don't know if you use Netlify at all, but Netlify also has a CLI, so I can push to GitHub and deploy my website without leaving my terminal. I love it.
I feel like we should do something about Netlify at some point because, like, I know it's a thing. It is a thing. And isn't Jason over at Netlify too?
Jason Lingstorf is my boss, yes.
Oh, yeah. He's coming on the show next month.
Sweet.
Couple weeks, monthish. Yeah. We're going to go with that. Yeah, I'm actually really excited because I reached out to him. Again, awkward intro conversations of, hey, so you do learning with Jason, and I'm going to start a show called Teach Jenn Tech. And someday it'd be really cool if learning with Jason is on Teach Jenn Tech.
That's amazing. And you get so much more comfortable. I was so awkward and felt so bad asking people at first with the podcast. And now I'm just like, everybody is just a person, right? Like, nobody cares. Like, just ask. Worst they say is no.
Yes. Or they don't reply. That happens.
And you spelt my name correctly. Thank you.
Oh, I had to like squint because like it went smaller. And I'm like, I hate spelling people's names wrong. I can't say names either, but yes. Yes. Okay. I finally have our folder created.
Sweet. Yay. Okay. So we can walk through all of this too. And actually, if you want to start with doing like push to GitHub and then we'll set up the Netlify CLI, I can walk you through all that and maybe deploy the site just as it is, what you have out of the box. So you want to open it up in VS Code. Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Sweet.
This was exciting because
And what you need to get for Windows, by the way, if you're going to keep using Windows, Power Toys is my favorite thing for window management. It lets you hold shift or whatever key you select, and you can place them into predefined areas. So I have one for like my coding screen and one for my browser.
My hope is I never
That
have
you
to
don't
touch
have
a
to.
Windows machine again. But y'all,
Thanks
you
for
can see my very, very messy desk. I'm okay. You guys can go on a tour of. So I have 3 screens.
Mm,
So then I have, yeah, my coding screen, my live stream, and then like having Twitch open because you don't always get everybody's messages
yeah.
or anything. So, but yes, I would be so happy to never, ever, ever touch Windows again. No offense to you or to Ben.
So are you coding in Windows also, or do you have WSL on top of this? Because that might be some of the frustration. So WSL is Windows subsystem for Linux. So it uses Linux based instead of the Windows based, which is horrible.
Uh, so we tried installing that yesterday, but to do
Oh,
it, it had to restart the system and we were live streaming. And I will say, since I had a restart right before our stream, it tried to install it and then it errored out. And I was like, I'm not even going to worry about it. You know, Windows.
yeah.
So I was like, I'm just going to leave it there. It's going to be great. It's going to be fine.
You're going to stop trying to install stuff during streams.
Yeah, but how is anybody going to know how to do stuff if we
Yeah.
don't?
I love that attitude. It's like you just do it and you
Oh,
see what happens.
I don't think I need to face that altogether, but
Oh, okay. So we have a directory.
it's doing
Okay, let's
something.
see what happens. So the my app part of
Oh,
that is it's going to call it my app now. And I think what's going to happen is it's going to create a directory inside of this directory, which may not be what you want to happen. But we can cd into it. Yeah,
oh,
that is what happened.
okay.
So if you want to rename it, you can, or you can just leave it in that top folder and then we can cd into that and then open that in VS Code. To learn Remix, and we spent 90 minutes debugging Node. That sounds amazing. That stuff is very important, but I do like Remix a lot too. And I can understand though with the new, I heard that Node 18 is hitting LTS soon. And
So I've also done that on a live stream. So when B Dougie was
NPM
able, like,
improvement.
I told you I spilled water all over my laptop
Yeah.
when he was supposed. So the following Monday, I was on the PC and we were trying to install Node and stuff. So that way we did Node 18. That's why we ended up doing Volta now because we spent like 30 minutes trying to debug and figure out how to get the project to work. It was entertaining.
Yeah. Wow.
But yay, we are here. We got it.
Okay, so we now have it open. Let's open. Do you like to use the terminal or do you like to use the integrated terminal in VS Code? I use the integrated terminal, but you use what you're comfortable with.
I'm down for whatever. To do the integrated terminal, it's just you click run, right?
Maybe. Or view, I think. Nope. Control and then the little backtick button on your keyboard will open it for sure. I don't know what that opened actually. It opened a group.
There we
it
go.
is. I'm like, I thought that would.
Let me minimize this one then. And voila.
Yay.
And bigger.
Okay.
Please get bigger.
It looks like there's already a Git initiated, but we might want to run Git init just to make sure that it's initiated already. Yeah. And so already initialized, okay, it's initialized now. So now we want to create the GitHub repository. So you want to run your CLI command. Oh, you already did.
Yes, I did it backwards though. So
maybe what we need to do is copy your clone code. Do you know what I'm talking about? To git clone?
I'm moving this over here because
What did we call it? We called it Spelt Brittney.
Yeah. So I did create it.
And so go to, at the top, go to click on code. I'm pointing at the screen like you can see where I'm like, yeah, and copy that. And instead of clone, though, we actually want just the HTTPS. So switch over to HTTPS and copy that one. Yep. And then in your terminal, you're going to say git remote and then RM for remove and then origin.
Okay, this is like, or
Yeah, going on to the next line and then hit enter and that'll remove your current origin if it has one. No such origin. Okay. So now you want to git remote add origin and then paste that link. Okay, so now it's linked up to that repo. So what we can now do is try to push, and it's probably going to complain because the version history is messed up. So my GitHub CLI also does this. So you're actually on the main branch, it says, but it doesn't do that. So what I do in this case, I do git checkout -b main and then hit enter. And now it's switched to the new branch main and do a git push and then do -- force, I think. And that will force a push.
Dash? No, wait.
Hyphen. Yep.
Force?
Force, yeah. Oh, it wants you to do the full thing. Okay, so in this case, copy that and then try enter and see if it'll just push to that. And then if not, we'll have to do the force again. Yeah. So paste again and then do the -- force at the end of it. Git punch. Yes, I need a git punch. Like just make it do what you want it. What? Failed to push some refs. Is it not force? Is it -? What am I missing here? Git push force. Is it -? Is it?
Oh, it says 2 dashes.
What? So maybe you can't do it. So why is this not working? Can we just create a new repo? No space. Okay, no space. So, but she doesn't have a space. You don't mean after main, right?
I'll try that too. Welcome to live streaming.
Now we are debugging Git because you're in an existing repo. But if the histories don't match up, it should let you push over that, right? You have to get rid of the outer repo. Oh, because of the folder structure. So it wants you to basically CD up to the main one and push if you want to do it that way, but that's going to mess everything up. So,
okay, I have a new idea. We're just gonna go here, go here. Can I delete this one? How do I
it's
delete?
in settings and it's,
okay.
Yeah.
We're just gonna, down the bottom.
Down
delete.
the bottom. Yep.
Uh,
you have to I would copy that whole thing because it's like you have to do your name and that whole teach Jenn Tech /
oh, helps if I can read.
Oh Lord, the 2FA.
Okay. Okay. We're going to get there. And y'all, I finally got access to my Junod Git, so I really should start using that too. Because I thought I deleted it on here and I didn't. And I am so lucky because I thought I was locked out forever.
I made the stupidest username when I first started out. It was like back in AOL days, I had this username that I kept for a very long time, and I made that as my GitHub username. So when I started getting serious about tech, I was like, I have to change this. And changing it in so many places was really annoying, but it was totally worth it.
Yes, I need to do that. I mean, okay, I'm just going to copy it over later. We're not going to make us go through this now. Okay, it was successfully deleted. I am just
now you can create a new one right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, clear your, or there we go. Okay, so now gh repo create and hit enter and see what happens. Yeah, push an existing local repository. Path is dot, the same one we're in. And you can name it what we had it before. It doesn't matter. Now that it's deleted, it's gone. Wait, AOL, that's OG, I know. That's like a long time ago. I'm showing my age, people. Back in the 90s. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Origin is fine. Unable to add remote origin because we already added it. But now if you do get remote -v to check what remote we're on, it should say the same URL that we had set. Yes. So that's correct.
So did it create it?
Yes. So it should be available on GitHub now. Your code may not have pushed up yet, but it should be created. I don't know if it automatically pushed it.
Let's find out.
Yeah, no code. So we need to push. So maybe do a git add, git commit, init, something.
Is it just git add? Oh, git add dot. Okay.
I do, yeah, git add dot. Or you can do individual folders, but dot just adds all of them. Oh, this is the fun Windows stuff I haven't seen in a very long time. So these line ending warnings that you're getting
Hover
are because
over control click. Sorry. Yes, go ahead. I also was reading the comments at the same time. That was
hover over the linkage. Oh yeah, so you could actually control click that, and it would open for the repo that it pasted the link, and you could control click out of the terminal to get to the repo.
Just goes right there.
That's your path that you're in on your computer. But when we did the get remote -v, it pasted the link.
Oh.
So you would have to scroll it back to where we were, or do it again, either way. Where did we do that? Just above that, get remote.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, and control click, and it will actually open it in your browser. But we need to push the code up, so that's where we were. So git add dot, and then we might have already done that. We did. And then I went off on my tangent about Windows because of all those line ending warnings. -m and then init or something, some more relevant. I'm always bad with git commit messages, especially if it's a project that I'm mainly just working on. I'm just like, I don't care. And then now do that git push, but it's going to ask you to do git push -- set with no space dash upstream space origin and then main. Enter. That work? I did it for my brain. I can never remember that. I always have to copy it, but it doesn't seem to be pushing anything either.
So it's asking me to sign in.
Oh, okay.
Which is weird because I thought I was already signed in.
Yeah, it was doing it a minute ago, and now it's like not working. Has these instructions step by step. She may want to use them and the process. Oh yeah. So originally that page that you brought up in the browser before you had, what was I going to say? Before you had the code in the browser, GitHub will actually like tell you the steps that I just kind of walked you through.
Oh, yeah. So, I think where this was a little messed up is I tried to create the repo beforehand. And so my hope is that it's not going to happen again.
No, it shouldn't happen. And do you want to go ahead and let's first install our node modules because I don't see them. So let's run npm-i. Or if you don't want to use node, we could use something else, but I'm sure that's overwhelming you with tooling. Space I. Yep. And that's just short for install. I'm doing all the bad things I like tell myself not to do when I'm teaching people is like make all these shorthand things. And Okay, so now we have node modules. So we can try to run the app locally with npm run dev. And that should open up at port 5173, which is apparently the new Vite thing. This is the Roman numerals that spell Vite. But 7 couldn't be done, so 7 was the closest to the T.
Yay.
Okay, so we have a counter, and you can click the counter, and it should work. There we go.
So I have done, not as complicated as I made it for us, but I have done this where I'm like, cool. Okay, so this is technically a web app, isn't it?
So we're running just Svelte right now and with Vite. And so this is all running on the client. We're not doing any server-side rendering. We're not pre-building and pre-generating our app. So it's all in the browser. So whatever browser you're using, the engine that runs the JavaScript is running all of the JavaScript needed to load the page.
Dope. Okay. Cool.
Cool. Okay, so now we can deploy this as it is, or we can start diving into more Svelte stuff.
Let's dive in more.
Okay, so if you open up the SRC folder, and I like to close my terminal once I have it running unless we need something in there. So I do that control backtick again. We'll minimize it, and then you can pop it out whenever you need it. There you go. And so in the SRC folder, we have an assets directory. This is not how I really recommend, I guess because it's an SVG, it has it in the SRC folder, but the public folder is actually where static assets go. So it's a little confusing that they have this here. I noticed this the other day when I was playing with this, but that's just an SVG file. The lib folder is where all of your Svelte components are going to be. So Anthony was talking about having that single file component, and that's what that counter.svelte file is. That counter.svelte file is just that counter component. That button that you saw is just that file. So that's a single file component. It's where you can take these frameworks or libraries and make these little pieces, chunks like Lego blocks, and build your app in those pieces. I would go ahead and enable it because there's a lot of TypeScript things that will not, it will give you little red squigglies if you don't do that. So I don't like little red squigglies.
I don't blame you. And Homie has a question of an example of what would go in server assets.
I really don't know. I don't know why assets is listed there. I've never used assets in a folder like that. I don't know what the benefit or the negatives are to even doing that. I always put them in the public folder so that they are available at build time, which I assume these would be too, because Spelt is a compiler. So that's kind of the first thing to learn about Spelt. That's what makes it a little different than React and Vue, is that it compiles all of the code. So it needs a build step. Where React and Vue, I think Vue is actually moving more towards this too, where they're going to be compiling, or they have been compiling since Vue 2 maybe. But React for sure uses a virtual DOM. Have you ever heard of the virtual DOM? Okay, so in the browser is a document object model. That's the DOM tree that the browser creates to like structure your site like a family tree. You can think of it like that, like the body and everything gets structured together. So the virtual DOM that React uses is a diff of that. So they copy it and then they see what changes so that they can update the virtual DOM to the regular DOM. React takes care of that by loading React into the browser and doing those updates inside the browser. Svelte compiles during a build step. So when you put it on Netlify or like wherever you host this app, there's a build step that actually compiles all of this code down into vanilla HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then the Svelte pieces are JavaScript, but they're done in a more surgical, like slicing way. So it updates the DOM because it knows everything that you've created. When it was compiled, it can actually update things faster. And the bundle size is smaller because it doesn't have to have the library in the browser to do that.
what you're saying makes sense. I would, the part that I'm noodling on is
Mhm.
I've also had someone on for Quick
Yeah.
JS too. So like I'm kind of like
Was it Mishko?
it was.
You had Mishko on. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So it's like also trying to like compile, I
so
compile, putting all of that
most
together.
of the new frameworks are using this because Spelt popularized this compiler based framework. And so
Okay,
Solid also does that. Quick does it. Astro, I think, is a compiler too. I mean,
okay.
all of the newer frameworks are kind of using this, and like the islands architecture, all of it is kind of just trying to make it faster. So we're not loading. React is, I think, 128 kilobytes in the browser. So you put React in the browser to do this virtual DOM diffing, and you're adding 128 kilobytes of JavaScript that you don't need.
Homie, am I familiar with what diff is? I'm going with context of, so we'll see. But the if I was picking up what Brittney was putting down, it's where diff is where it will see if there's changes in the JavaScript already loaded, and if there's a change, it will load it. If which would cause slower load times because it's having to reload it. Where if it's already existing, it will just load what's already there that's cached. Where React does it in the web every single time, but uh, Svelte does it, compiles it before it even hits the browser.
Yeah, so diff is basically just short for difference. So it's seeing what the
Okay.
difference is between what's in the actual document object model and what's in the virtual one that React is holding. And React does that very performantly. They do update the DOM quickly, but it loads more JavaScript upfront to the browser. And you can create some of those things that you were talking about, like caching and server side rendering, static generation with Next and those meta frameworks. But if you're just using React, like Anthony taught you, like the React beat, that's the same as this. It's just in the browser.
Then could you explain? Because I think I was kind of stuck on this question, what Quick does, because Quick will only load what you're currently using instead of loading the full page, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I can't even wrap my mind around everything that Quick does, but I've had Mishko on our podcast too and talked to him about it. I've seen it demoed a couple of times, but from what I gather, it is compiled and it runs everything on the server. So that means that you put it on a host and everything is generated on the server, and then each of these single file components that you're getting are dynamically grabbed from the server when they're needed, not beforehand. So it's all loaded asynchronously. And they do that faster in Mishko's mind by serializing all of the HTML or all of the JavaScript that's needed into these objects that he puts on classes and IDs in the HTML itself. So you can do key value pair matching inside of the HTML, which is that's like a bunch of JavaScript that even I can't wrap my head around how they do that. But
Okay. I don't feel like I'm going to build a framework anytime soon.
no, me
But
either. Exactly.
other people have fun with that. Just like have fun.
Yeah.
Okay. So this does make sense.
Dropping knowledge of
Um,
all the things. I
yes,
feel like
yes,
that's kind of like the job a little bit, is that I need to know a little bit. So we use
yes.
this T-shaped comb. Most developers have this T-shaped comb, but we're just like the full comb. We have a little bit of knowledge and everything, and we maybe have one that's like a little bit longer. So it just
Yeah.
goes across.
Yes, I agree, homie. And I love that you ask if I know something, homie, like that I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
do I? Because I think that's something that I struggle with is I'm understanding what you're saying.
Hmm.
Bye, Chan. Have a wonderful day. I almost thought you said you're going to lunch because your name's Lunch.
That's amazing.
So, Anyway, I love that y'all ask me the questions to see if I know it, because I think I can understand what people are saying doesn't mean that I A, remember the term, and B, know how to say it back to someone. So
Yeah.
I appreciate these questions because I
I
don't always
felt like
remember.
that was when I started feeling like I was actually getting a grasp on things, is when you can explain it to other people. And I use this philosophy. I'm in the Learn, Build, Teach Discord server, and we go by the
Mhm.
philosophy of learning it, building with it, and then teaching it to other people. And once you start teaching, you actually teach yourself too. You learn more by
Mhm.
teaching.
I really should start putting this stuff in there. I just realized that I'm in that. I don't Discord well or Slack well, or I Slack off pretty well, but I don't use Slack well.
Use Slack well, yeah. Uh,
Um, okay, so this is making a lot of sense.
So let's look
Um,
at that counter component real quick and see if we can actually break down what is going on here. So this is kind of the structure of a Svelte file. A .svelte file is basically a script tag, like an HTML file. Think of it. You have a script tag that holds your JavaScript. You have your templating, which is a superset of HTML. So you can write vanilla HTML in there, but you also have these things like that on::click, and then the curly braces puts you into JavaScript. So it's taking HTML and giving it superpowers. So the on: part of that is the event listeners that we get from JavaScript. So on::click is a JavaScript API that we could call the function on. But this on: is Spelt's version of that does a lot of the stuff behind the scenes that takes care of the state management for us, so we don't have to do as much work. And it does that by the equal sign. So the equal sign in Svelte makes a variable reactive. So that let count equals 0 on line 2 is a variable declared, count is the name of it, set to 0. And then when we increment that count in the function, even though it's an arrow function on the next line on 3, we're incrementing that count by 1, and that plus equals is important. You have to set it again in Svelte. So this is one thing that does throw some people off. So if you're using array methods like array.push, and you're trying to update an array without actually setting it and assigning it to a new value, Svelte doesn't catch on to the reactivity. So its reactivity is based on the assignment. It needs the equal sign to actually update. And so that function is then being called in that on::click handler. And Svelte is doing the work behind the scenes of actually creating the JavaScript function for you, so it's less boilerplate.
um, okay. I'm have questions on that. First off, homie, did you hear me thanking you for asking questions? I see that you dropped, so I just want to make sure. Go back and watch that later because I did thank you. Just want to make sure you know that. And something that, even as you're saying this, and my very, very first stream was about with Yere, and it was about like CSS, JavaScript, and HTML, and it was to do something, and I actually ended up building it in HTML because it made more sense than JavaScript. But you were talking about how this has HTML.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a plugin that will identify what each line is? Like, this is TypeScript, this is Svelte,
That's
this
a
is
great
HTML.
question. I wonder if there's something out there that does that. I I don't know off the top of my head, but that would be amazing. And I would be willing to come on your stream anytime and help with that, because I felt like that was really what I struggled with as a new developer. Also, is looking at this stuff is like, what is happening here?
Yeah,
So
like I can kind of like I'm pointing at
I
my
know I
screen
was
so
doing.
you can see. Like I feel like I can understand what's going on right here. I'm like, okay, cool. Like that totally makes sense. All you click on the button, it increments it. I could change the count plus equal to 2 and it would go up by 2s. You always want
Yep.
it to load at 0. All of this made sense.
Yeah.
What doesn't make sense to me, and I think this is a reason why I'm not partial to one framework, is I'm like, they all kind of look the same.
Yeah. I
So
wish I had a
they
comparison here for you. So to me, what React confused me with is that it has to be wrapped in a JavaScript function. So you're having a JavaScript function, and then you're having your HTML in JavaScript, JSX. So JSX uses JavaScript to transpile the HTML basically that you're writing, so React can read it. And that flip in my brain from having to write JavaScript and then JSX and then flip to JavaScript, and it was too many mind switches for me. It's like I was trying to switch from HTML to JavaScript constantly, but this keeps them separated in my brain a little bit. So it helped destructure that for me. And then in the same format of writing an HTML file, if we created another file in that lib folder called like html.spelt, we could just start writing HTML and it would just work. If you don't need JavaScript, I mean, you could just write vanilla HTML in a Svelte file. I can copy the last tutorial from Free Code Camp for the cat photo app that they do. Even the HTML and the head tag and everything that shouldn't even be in a file, I can put it into a Svelte REPL, and even the form will post and work. Like everything just works, which I can actually send you the link to that if I could find it. And I think I just closed it. I didn't mean to close you. Come back.
I think like at this point, it kind of like talks us through a bit of the beginning of it that I'm going to say you or someone else from Svelte ever wants to come back on, it would kind of be cool. It would be cool to like compare it if, let's say I just load a React app, and be able to show them side by
Yeah,
side,
I think that would be
because
great.
that really helped with TypeScript
Yeah.
and to understand the differences, just so that way, it helps, in my opinion, it really helps with understanding something when you're comparing it to something else, where
Yeah.
like right now, again, I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, this is it. I get what you're saying. I'm just not going to know why or how it's different than React.
Yeah. In that code too, you can do a style tag and that will allow you to do CSS, but it's actually scoped just to that component. So that's another thing that Svelte gives you, is that your styling doesn't leak out unless you want it to. So you can style that button and it would only affect the button that's in that file, but it uses a style tag. It uses vanilla CSS. So if you're writing an HTML file, you have a script tag for your JavaScript, a style tag for your CSS, and then your markup. And it follows the same patterns.
Interesting. Okay. Anything else you think we should go through today specifically?
No, I think that would be really good if somebody came back on or I came back on and did like a comparison, because having that, I see where that really helps. And I think you've helped me with my talk a little bit now, because I know I need
Yay.
like the React and Svelte side by side.
Yeah, I would just say like something like that, just to be able to
Yeah.
see, like, if I go, I mean, y'all, let's see if this might help us a little bit for today. I'm not going to like fully go into it, but this is why you have repos. If you can figure out where you're doing stuff.
Did we push the code?
I'm not sure, but I want to see. Yes, this is back when, okay, there we go. My React app. And source.
Oh, that was my. I have a command that opened a color picker and I can't find it.
No, that's the, I might have deleted the.
Oh, the React app?
The counter.
Oh, did you? In the SRC file, maybe? And there's no counter in there? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I deleted it. So yeah, like I think if you're willing to come on the show again, I think it would be really fun to also see if I can properly build the two of them. Just
Yeah.
install the two, and then we can compare them.
I think that would be really, really fun.
Yes. We are learning all of the learning, and Just to, as you so properly said, apparently I'm having really fun, like having a lot of fun with resharing and unsharing and resharing.
So can we add a scoped style too to that so we have a change too?
Yeah.
So like in that counter.svelte file, at the bottom or wherever you want to put it, just add a style tag.
Bye, Cynthia.
Hi. Run
Um,
Lighthouse on the 2. I'm actually the Lighthouse build plugin for Netlify makes me so excited. So Spelt Sirens, the thing that I run or help co-run, I keep saying that, but we have speltsirens.dev, and the Lighthouse build plugin lets you run your Lighthouse scores on builds on Netlify, and you can see your scores right on your deploy. So you don't even have to go to like web.dev and type it in as an extra step. It just shows it on my deploy now, and I can see what each deploy's scores get on Lighthouse.
that's
Do
cool.
you,
And I was just gonna say, y'all, I clearly cannot read because I glance. This happens to me all the time. If anybody's wondering, this is something that happens with like dyslexia. I saw run, so I thought she was running because even if I like
oh,
sit here and like read the entire sentence, my head went to run. When Chan said bye, it read he's going to lunch.
lunch. Yeah.
On it. Okay. So, it's super fun, y'all.
It's fine.
It's very entertaining. But yeah, what
So on line 12, just do a style. So the little hashtag style. Or I said hashtag. Oh my gosh. Less than. I'm sorry. Wow.
if that's greater than, less than.
It's lunchtime.
Yes.
I think the first one is greater than. Erase that first one,
Okay.
and then we should be good. And then in the style tag, so inside of the 2 there, hit enter, and we'll go to a new line and just say button.
I don't know why I capitalized.
Lowercase. Yeah, there we go. And curly braces, and we can just give it a background color, I guess, of like teal, maybe. Just do something easy. Or blue violet. That works. Save it. And then now we can push it to GitHub. You've already shut down the server, so we could see it if we ran the server again. That was it, like had it on a different line. That was kind of interesting.
Oh, why did you like move it all the way over here? Okay, whatever.
I love it when it does that. And now we have a purple button. But if we
Yay.
created a button in a different component, it wouldn't grab those styles.
That makes sense.
And I don't know if that's accessible. Ben might still be here yelling at us. We could do maybe color white and it would be accessible.
Yes, yes. And I feel like Ben's always in the back of my head, and I'm like, okay. So like it's so funny because I'll like post something and I'm like, shit, I did not put something as the alt description.
Yeah.
And then randomly I'll be doing a GIF and
That's
I
good that
do.
people are there advocating for that and
Agreed.
like making you think about it, which is, I think, the important part. And so now, if you want to push all of these changes, we can shut the server down again and do git add, and we can git commit new Svelte app or something.
Ah. Did I do that right? Why do you look so weird? Okay.
It's because of the warnings that you're getting because of Windows. Those will
Oh,
go away in Mac.
okay.
Windows has different line endings. So when you hit enter on Windows, it's formatted differently than a Mac is. And so GitHub automatically knows that, and or Git itself maybe automatically knows that and changes it.
Do you have to do git? Wait, did I do all of them?
Did
I
you do a
did.
commit?
Yeah, I just did commit.
Okay, so git push should work now because we've
Ah,
already done the hard one.
and it's still a period, right?
No, you don't have to do anything on that.
Yay.
There we go. Now it should be up.
This one.
Maybe next time I can show you the Netlify CLI too, because I really love that I can just deploy right from my command line. It's so easy. Yeah.
Yay!
It's all there. Yay.
Sweet. We have done it. We got through it.
Oh, Cynthia posted the link
Oh,
for
yay.
handling line endings too. She may not want to worry about that though. If you're getting your Mac back,
No, I'm totally
you're like,
okay if I never touch Windows again. I will say it did teach me a lot,
yeah,
but I personally I just like using a Mac better, but it has a lot to do with small features.
it's
Like
familiarity too. You're
it
used to
is.
using a Mac, so I get it.
But I don't get random pop-ups. Like if I go through my down below, it'll like randomly pop up the weather and I'm like, "Yo, my cursor was just happened to be there. Don't do that." Don't.
It's distracting.
And then or like I love the search on the Spotlight search and that I can get all of my texts on my MacBook. And I'm
Yeah.
like, these are
I
dumb things to be really grateful for.
I think I have something that does the spotlight search on Windows because I was trying to help my husband do something the other day and I'm like, just do command space because that's the same key combo on my Windows too, and it didn't work for him. So I think I have an app or something that does that.
Oh yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. All right. Anyone else have questions before we end today's stream? And please help me bug Brittney to coming back on the show again. Yes.
I would love to come back on the show.
Yes. It's going to be fun. And hopefully all my stuff is working again. And then Apple did a great job tying us into their
Ecosystem, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I like what you did there, homie. I like what you did there because yes, yes, I am putting up with a lot and I don't even know if I'm getting it back today. Hopefully. Hopefully.
I hope you do.
Me too. Well, thank you everyone. And tomorrow is going to be our mental health and neurodiversity and tech Twitter space. Same time every Wednesday. And Thursday, we're doing something. I should probably look at the schedule.
I'll be somewhere doing something. You
Yeah,
can find
I
me
mean,
somewhere.
we're doing a live stream,
You
but
can find me at VConf the rest of the day. I will be
yes,
all in at VConf.
yes.
9:45 p.m. tonight, I go live for VConf. Yeah.
Please tell me you're going to take a nap.
No, I probably won't take a nap, but I will take a break. I have 3 kids, so I have to take them to orthodontist appointment, library, like
All right, you got a busy
busy
day ahead of
life.
you. Well, thank you so much for your time. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
See ya.